You guys don't leave a whole lot for the mayor to talk about. Um, I'll reiterate the thanks to everyone that's come out in support and in opposition. It's an important conversation to have. Chris, thanks to Lifetime for your interest in Poway. Somebody raised the possibility that somehow this would be delegated to staff to decide. That's not going to happen. This decision is going to be made here at the City Council. And speaking to that, Alan, if I may, there were some, maybe the elephant in the room is, well, this wasn't what was on the ballot. Is this appropriate for the council to decide as opposed to go back to the voters? Does this qualify as a minor amendment, so to speak? So if you could just give us some context on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just as a really high level, what was on the ballot was the general plan amendment and specific plan itself, which is those are the legislative approvals that are subject to the voter approval. The more detailed, like site plans, that's not voter approved. What's approved was the specific plan, which is in itself quite detailed, but that's the governing sort of legal document. And so there's a process in that document where there's 4 different categories of minor modifications. Staff, is recommending and feels that this proposal, albeit while increasing the maximum square footage, because it is under the traffic cap that is part of that maximum square footage, falls under 2 of those categories, which is the first category, which are amendments that do not increase intensity in traffic. And then the other category is a catch-all, which is projects that are of a similar magnitude to the other minor modification categories and deemed to conform to the purpose, authority, vision, and objectives of the specific plan. So if the council agrees this qualifies as a minor modification, it would come to you for that decision, it could be approved by council action without a vote. If it didn't qualify as a minor modification and you needed a formal specific plan amendment, that would likely trigger a vote under Prop FF.
Thank you. I want to reiterate, again, the question was asked, Bob, but to be very, very clear, the footprint, the amount of space, acreage dedicated to a fitness facility or recreational facility, has that changed from the beginning?
No, it has not.
Okay. I thought I heard you say that before, but I've got my list of questions here and didn't want to go unasked. Chris, I think I'm pleased that you're engaging with the neighbors and that you've been responsive on the block wall. I think it would make sense to strongly consider that south wall as well. Because of the southwest existing homes and the new homes that will be in there. I would also hope that, those trees and everything look pretty, and Peter's going to give some bushes from his yard to block the block wall. I think it would be very important to not just get 5-gallon trees and stick them in there and say, 20 years from now they're going to look great. Mature trees would help significantly, not only with the viewscape, but absorbing sound of activity across the wall. I was glad to hear no outdoor uses after 10 p.m. The lighting, help me understand lighting. I don't know if it's Bob or Chris, but for example, in the parking lot, will these be bollard type lights in the parking lot, or would they be on higher stanchions?
I would let Chris say what they're proposing. We haven't gotten to that level of detail yet. There's different ways that it can be done and still comply.
Sure. So the specific plan, and I believe I won't speak to PMC, but the specific plan says that the parking lot lighting can be up to 18 feet, and so that's what we've proposed. That type of lighting is high enough to give us the distribution to maintain the foot candles that we need for safety and security across the entire parking lot. We are in discussions with the neighbors because there's been some concerns. We've got 2 lights on the west side of the property and 2 on the south side. And so there's some concerns about the ability to see those and what light might look like. So we are exploring some options to be able to try and remove those, and in the absence of that, at least reduce them so that the impact is lessened for those neighbors, those adjacent neighbors.
Yeah, and that's the concern. We don't want to have bright lights shining in their backyard.
Right. And anything on those sides, again, would have house shields on them, which means it's basically a shield on the back of the light that directs the light away from the houses and towards the parking lot. So it's all in an effort to, again, reduce the impact to them.
Okay. Let me see if there's anything else I need you for. No, I think you can have a seat again.
Thank you.
From the first renderings that we saw, you've come a long way. But I agree with my fellow council members that there's still a ways to go. I think the first rendering we saw, it was pretty much a stucco building. It's hard to tell above the wainscoting if that's still proposed to be stucco, but some barnwood type siding above the wainscoting might be something to bring it more in conformance with a farm look. I've lived on a farm. I know barnwood, and it just kind of goes together. So I would suggest if that's something that can be recreated, it would be helpful. I think we've thrown a lot at you tonight. Barry, you're moving like you wanted to say something else. Go ahead.
Chris, phone back up. It's been mentioned a few times about operating hours.
Yes.
What are you proposing?
4 a.m. to midnight.
4 a.m.
And then
so
from-
what do you do at 4 a.m.?
Work out.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I know, I thought the same thing. Like, who comes at 4 a.m.?
Do they
But
bang trash cans in the yard or anything?
Nothing outdoors.
You said
It
the
would all
doors will be closed, the windows will be closed.
All indoors, closed doors, closed
Until
window
when?
operation.
When does the outside start?
7 a.m.
7.
is when the specific plan would allow us to start outdoor use, and then that could continue until 10 p.m. And then from 10 p.m. to midnight would be, again, closed door,
Back inside.
closed window operations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We're not there yet, we know, and we're here to discuss these things and do different things. One of the things that we did when we built our community center recently was staff commissioned a 3D walkthrough.
Yeah.
And it showed pretty realistically what the facility would look like based on the real elevations of the parking lot in relationship to the surroundings. And I would like to see that so that when you come back, we see something that's realistic. It shows the neighbors' homes behind there.
Sure.
It shows us what the elevation of the parking lot is in relation to the wall. A realistic interpretation of what trees you'll plant day one, knowing they'll get bigger. And an understanding of how this building fits in. And Bob, I understand this is 6.87 acres, this piece of turf that we've carved out for this. So this dedicated space you've got, that was what was in the original plan as well, in the specific plan for the layout and everything, almost 7 acres. And if I do my math, an acre is 43,560 square feet. And so it's a little under 300,000 square feet altogether, this parcel. And we're talking about a building that's about 10% of that.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I get my relationship there.
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't scare me as much when I look at it because we've got that size facility available. But I really would like to see how these elevations work and how the roof line is in line with the neighbors. I don't know how you could do it from the neighbor's perspective, looking out better than what you showed us tonight. But I think when you come back, I expect you will.
Yep.
That we can see that.
Yeah, and just so you know, the video that that I showed, when we put together those fly-throughs, we have an in-house rendering team that does all of that work. So we pulled the topographical data from Lennar and their civil consultant. Anything outside of the actual farm property, Google has topographical data that we pull into our renderings. We use the actual architectural model of the building. We use the civil plans of the site. So we do try to make it as accurate and as representative as possible.
Okay.
And so we'll continue to, part of the reason you don't see the homes is it's time and money to render those in. And so,
Yes, but we're getting closer to that point. And,
hearing your
in respect
ask.
to the neighbors, I think that's important to be able to show them, especially the ones that are, really butters.
Yep. Absolutely.
How it looks.
Absolutely, and we'll be sure to add those in for our next time.
Well, I know you've complied with most everything we've asked you to do, so I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Council, anything further? I think we've given Chris plenty of feedback, and Bob, I know you're taking notes on what we want to see, and we'll look forward to the next time this is before us. Thank you. We're moving on. We're on item 5, council-initiated items, appointments to the Budget Review Committee and Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. We have, for those of you joining us online wishing to speak on item 5, please raise your hand virtually now. If you're on the phone, press *9. Do we have any speakers on this? We do not have any speakers. I'm happy to move approval of the following appointments. Jared Wilson to a 1-year term on the Budget Review Committee, and Rob Polston, Andrew Cruz, and Chris Pekas to 2-year terms on Budget Review. And for the Park and Rec Advisory Committee, 2-year